Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another study of the Spirit's book. And just a reminder for those that are watching us later, all our study groups, our classes are recorded and posted on the Spiritist Group of New York YouTube page. You can find all our classes there, okay? So as I mentioned, we are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on book 2, chapter 8. And we started talking about somnambulism. We stopped on question 431. We're going to start on 432. Just a reminder for those that were not here last week. These are concepts that are not very easy for us to fully understand, right, sometimes. So, somnambulism is when the spirit detaches itself from the physical body in a sleep state, but not in a dream state, okay? So it's an out-of-body experience, but different from astral projection, that you are in a trance state. In somnambulism, you are asleep, okay? There is natural somnambulism and magnetic somnambulism. Magnetic somnambulism is kind of hypnotism, right? You can induce the person to enter in a somnambulic state, and this is induced somnambulism. But you can enter it in a natural state. So I was reading some descriptions of meetings at the time of Kardec, and I was reading on a mediumship meeting that they had 10 mediums around the table, and immediately when the meeting started, 2 of the mediums started to sleep and enter into a somnambulic state. Okay, it's different from sleeping and dreaming or natural sleep. It's a different state, but it's a sleep state. Sleepwalking is a somnambulist that uses the physical body as an instrument to manifest. The person who's sleepwalking, the incarnated person, when you are back to your physical body, when you wake, you don't remember what you did in a somnambulic state, because it was your spirit outside of your physical body, still connected by the cords, but using your physical body as an instrument, okay? If science talks about somnambulism as a mental imbalance, that you start walking in the night. That's the only description of somnambulism, is sleepwalking, right? Science said. But in Spiritism, it goes beyond. But so if we are, what we discussed last week, when you are in a somnambulic state, you are in the spiritual world, having experiences in the spiritual world, like in a dream state, but it's not a dream. You have the ability to go beyond your capacity as an incarnated being, because when we are in the spiritual world, right, the physical body restrains some of our abilities, some of our recollections, some of our memories, that when you are in a somnambulic state, you can access some of these memories or some of these experiences. When you come back to the physical body, you are not going to remember. But in the somnambulic state, in the sessions that Kardec was there, the mediums, they would narrate what they were seeing and their experiences. So they will start, they had whole conversations and discussions with the mediums in a somnambulic state. How did they differentiate the somnambulic state from a medium in a trance like we have it here normally? Because the mediums in a somnambulic state were asleep. Okay? How did they know they were asleep, not in a trance state? I don't know. But I imagine that they learn how to differentiate, and according to the medium, also different mediums, different capacities. So it is a sort of an astral projection. We were talking on the other day of an astral projection, but the astral projection, you are in a state of trance. You are not a sleep state, but the experience is more or less the same. Okay.
432.
430.
How do you explain the power that some somnambulists possess to see very far distances? Have we not told you that the soul transports itself during sleep? It does the same thing during somnambulism.
Yeah. So again, you detach yourself from your physical body. You separate yourself from the physical body. You have experiences in the spiritual world. You can go to anywhere you want and report what you are seeing. So let's say I go into a somnambulic state. I go to Washington and I start describing what I'm seeing there in Washington. Same thing as an astral projection. The thing is, a somnambulist will probably describe things of the spiritual world, not of the physical world. But that's just an example, right? When I'm sleeping here, if my physical body is here, but I transport myself to a different place, I can describe where I am and what's happening there. Paco, you raise your hand.
Bit confused with this question now, because how do you make the distinction between this question and, let's say, remote viewing? Because remote viewing.
Oh, remote viewing. Again,
can you expand on this question and remote viewing? Yeah.
Yes, we are going to study remote viewing. The next is ecstasy. The following one is remote viewing. But remote viewing, you are doing it in a trance state. You are not in a sleep state.
Oh, the remote viewing is in trance, and this okay.
Yes, that's the basic difference. But we are going to study it probably next.
Well, that's one is somnambulist. It's like you said, astral projection. It might be more or less the same thing, but astral projection is not a somnambulist. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
433.
No, just a second.
Thank you.
Talk.
Just to clarify, so a medium in a somnambulic state will be asleep, but coming back will remember the communication, will not remember. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh. And a somnambulic that is not a medium also doesn't remember.
Yeah, again, to be very strict, a somnambulic state would not be a mediumship, right? To be a psychic. Right. Yeah, so a psychic ability. Now, if in the cases of Kardec, they were mediums in the sense that they were bringing messages from the spiritual world. So they were being mediums, but it is the experience of the medium so if you go there in a somnambulic state to visit your grandmother, and then you come back and you start describing what you are seeing there, right? Oh, she's here in a room surrounded by 10 people, and they are learning about something. This is not mediumship, right? Because you're just describing what you are seeing there. Mediumship would be, oh, my grandmother is sending a message that, and I'm going to report the message that she's sending, and then you start talking. So brothers and sisters, this and that. That's a mediumship message, let's say. So you're being an intermediary between your grandmother and the people in the meeting, right? But if you're just describing what's happening there, you're not really being a medium in the strict sense, right?
So then it's something else.
if you do remember, it's a dream. Yeah. In a somnambulic state, again, you may remember parts of things, right? But it's normally, if you remember, you were really sleeping and you were dreaming. But there are differences also, which is, it's somnambulism is hard to understand. You know, I've been doing this for, I talked to Elmo for the 8th time discussing this, and we're still, every time we come back to this, it's always a struggle, right? Yeah. Elmo is here looking at me, not fully agreeing with what I'm saying, but preferring to not say anything.
Yeah, because for me to disagree, I have to present my alternative, and I don't have one. I don't have any reply.
All right.
433. Does the degree of somnambulistic clairvoyance depend on the physical makeup of the body or on the nature of the incarnate spirit? Both. But there are physical qualities that determine whether the spirit can free itself from matter more or less easily.
So that's a question that I have trouble understanding, right? My interpretation of here is, you know, there are people that have, are mediums, ostensive mediums that can manifest themselves easier than other mediums. There are mediums that have trouble, you know, they make an effort, and then you have one communication. And there are mediums that, you know, like Rogério, that so we start a meeting, he already have a communication, and if we allow, he'll continue one after the other. I think it's in that sense, if I understood correctly. So the somnambulistic clairvoyance depends on the nature of the incarnate spirit, in that sense that it's much is easier for some people than for others. But and of course the spirit, again, you cannot go beyond your own capabilities, right? You are not more evolved than in the spiritual world than you are in the incarnated, right? Morally. So you cannot go above what you can go as your level of evolution. We're going to study ecstasy next, and it's a different ability that you go somewhere, but you are taken by spirits. You know, you don't go by them yourself. On a somnambulic state, you go by yourself. Theoretically, you can be taken by spirits, but you go by yourself. On an ecstatic state, you don't go by yourself. You need to be helped, assisted, because you go above your ability to be, right? When André Luiz was taken, again, separate thing, but when André Luiz was taken to visit his mother's colony, she took him there. He couldn't go by himself there. He needed to go with someone that could take him there, right? That's more or less what the difference here between somnambulic state and ecstatic state that we will study after this, okay? Let's go.
434. Are the faculties enjoyed by the somnambulist the same as those that a spirit possesses after death? They are the same up to a certain point. A somnambulist is still attached to matter, and you must take its influence into account.
Okay, not clear question, I agree. But what I think what Kardec is asking is, are the faculties of a somnambulist the same as of a spirit that is in the spiritual world, right? Not after that. Spirit that is in the spiritual world.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, a somnambulist, even if it's free from the physical body, is still attached to a physical body. So the physical body has some influence and some restriction in the experience that the spirit is having in the spiritual world. I thought of the example of balloon tied to a pole, right? The wind can move the balloon, but the balloon doesn't leave the post. It's attached to the post, right? It's the same thing with the spirit. You are still connected to your physical body. So a spirit that doesn't have a physical body is freer than a somnambulist. But so they, to a certain point, they can enjoy the faculties of a spirit in the spiritual world. Okay.
.435. Can somnambulists see other spirits? That depends on the nature and level of their abilities. Most of them see other spirits perfectly well, but they do not always recognize them as spirits and mistake them for physical beings. Somnambulists, and especially those who know nothing about spiritism, often make this mistake. They do not understand anything pertaining to spirits and are shocked to see them in human form. This leads them to believe that they are living persons. The same effect is felt at death in those who believe they are still alive. Nothing about them appears to have changed. The spirits around them seem to have bodies like ours, and they mistake the appearance of their own body with that of a real body.
So here, what the spirits are, the question is, can somnambulists, and here he is using the term in general, right? So you have those sleepwalking, right? Can they see other spirits? Yes, but they cannot, many times they don't understand that they are seeing spirits. They will think that they are seeing living persons, right? Like we have sometimes spirits that come here on Monday and say that don't accept that they are dead because they look at themselves. I'm seeing my body, so how come you're telling me I'm dead, right? So if you don't understand the concept of the spiritual world and how it works, and you are a somnambulist, you are going to think that you are seeing other incarnated beings there in the spiritual world. It's in that sense that the spirits are explaining here. Those who know nothing about spiritism often makes the mistake that they are seeing physical beings when they are in reality seeing spirits. Okay.
36. When somnambulists see objects at a distance, do they see them with their bodies or with their souls? Why would you ask such a question, since the body does not see? It is the soul.
Again, the spirit is the one who sees. The physical body, when you are awake, your physical eyes are your ability to see, but who sees is the spirit, right? Because if mediums, seeing mediums that have the clairvoyance can see with their eyes closed, who sees is the spirit, right? If a blind person can be a clairvoyant, which he can, of course, is this the soul or the spirit that sees, not the physical body. So the spirit, when you are in a somnambulic state, you can see objects at a distance because you go there, right? Your physical body stays, you go there. Now, when you're sleepwalking, your physical body is acting, so you are restricted by what your physical body is doing, right?
.437. Since the soul transports itself, how is it that somnambulists see the heat or cold of the place where their souls are located, which is sometimes very far away from the body? Their souls have not entirely left their bodies and are still attached by the link that unites them. This link is the conductor of sensations. When two individuals in two different cities use electricity to correspond with each other, electricity is the link between their thoughts, and it enables them to communicate with one another as though they were right next to each other.
Here we have to think, we are incarnated, so we are used to the sensations of the physical body. So when you enter in a somnambulic state and you go to a place that it's cold, it's in your mind, right? You are used to feel cold in a cold place. So you, through your mind, you transmit the sensations through your physical body. Hot, cold. You're not really feeling hot or cold, but you are bringing the sensations to the physical body. Spirits communicating with us, sometimes they tell that they are cold, that they are suffering from pain, from the problems they had with the physical body. Why they are doing that? Because they live so long with those issues that when they lose their physical body and go back to the spiritual world, it takes some time for them to realize, to leave it behind, the sensations. So you can understand how a somnambulist is still very connected to the physical body with the sensations that the physical body feels. So the impressions of the somnambulist in these other places, the sensations are in their heads, not in what the physical body is feeling, right? Okay.
438.
Yes, last one.
After death, do the use somnambulists made of their ability influence them? Of course, as is the case for the good or bad use of all abilities that God has given to human beings.
Again, everything that we do in our physical lives, we carry with us back to the spiritual life, right? So our experiences, if you worked your whole life you were a somnambulist and you had experiences in the spiritual world, you are going to carry this ability, or the consequences of this ability, the experiences that you had, good or bad, right? The fact that you are a somnambulist doesn't make you a good or a bad person. The use you make of that ability is what makes the difference. So if you use this ability to cause harm to others, there will be consequences. If you use that ability to be helpful to others, there will be also positive consequences when you're back in the spiritual world. It's just a natural way, right? That we take our moral qualities and imperfections back to the spiritual world when we return. Okay, any final questions on somnambulism? We are going to ecstatic trance, which is still some sort of somnambulism. Yes, Danny.
Are these things that commonly happen? Like, do people come to the spirit center describing this kind of things, or this is more like the back then, like the turning tables? No, the turning tables, right? Like the phenomena that were happening to call attention to the fact that all these things existed and stuff.
I haven't met any medium, somnambulic medium. No, I would say Leonor.
I would say it's.
Leonor has some
I would say
experience
it's present.
somnambulic
It's not
states.
something of the past.
Yeah.
But it's extremely difficult to report since they don't remember. How would they report what they don't remember?
Yeah, they have to be describing as it happens, right? In a mediumship meeting.
I was gonna say Leonor too. She gave exactly descriptions of what we were describing.
Yeah, but I think many times she has more as astral projection than somnambulic state, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
I've had several experiences as a child in somnambulic states, but I never thought it was connected to mediumship, because of like that. People would say you walk, you sat, you talked, you asked for things, you talk nonsense, you scream different things. I don't remember, so I'm assuming I was dreaming. Period. Never associated with any communication. In some cases, I guess, I think it was more about it. So I realized something may be coming. I can't really understand that it's a different situation. That doesn't mean it's connected at all. It could be just dreaming.
Could be a somnambulic state. Depends on the.
Need a dialogue or two.
Yeah, you need to, well, you know, Marcio needs to engage with you when you are in that state and see. But yeah. You see, Danny. Okay, so we start ecstatic trance, and we are going to see right in the first question the difference.
439. What is the difference between ecstatic trance and somnambulism? Ecstatic trance is a more refined form of somnambulism. When experiencing ecstasy, the soul is even more independent.
Yeah, read the next one, so then we talk a little bit, because it explains where the ecstatic goes.
Does the soul of the ecstatic really enter higher worlds? Yes. The ecstatic person sees those worlds and perceives the happiness of those living there. However, there are worlds that are blocked off to spirits who are not amply purified.
Okay, so ecstatic trance, it's a more refined form of somnambulism. It's a somnambulism where you reach a higher level of spirituality, of experiences in the spiritual world, right? So for me to explain an example, because I think it helps us understand, I was reading, there is a psychography by, I think, Hilário Silva through Chico Xavier, talking about Eurípides Barçanufo. Eurípides Barçanufo was a spiritist in Brazil in the beginning of the 19th century, very good worker. He's the one that founded the Allan Kardec school in the city of Sacramento. That's there today. I visited the city. So Eurípides Barçanufo had an ecstatic experience where he entered into into an ecstatic trance, and he found himself walking towards a man that at first he didn't recognize. And then as he approached the man, he saw that it was Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ was crying. And then as he got closer to Jesus, he felt on his knees, of course, can you imagine being in the presence of Jesus, right? And then he raised his hand and asked, "Why are you crying, Master? Are you crying for those that do not believe in spirituality, do not believe in God? Are you crying for those that are doing harm to others without any thoughts about the future?" He's made some sort of this question. And Jesus told him, "No, I'm crying for those that know the gospel but refuse to practice it." And then he woke up, right? So that's an ecstatic experience, right? You find yourself in a somnambulic state in the presence of Jesus Christ. The other description that you find in Kardec's work, it's Mozart. The last composition of Mozart when he was alive was the famous Requiem, right? Which is a beautiful song. He received the composition in an ecstatic state in the spiritual world, and he narrated that you can find it in the Spiritist Review. I think it's 1858 or 1859. And there is another composer that his name now escapes me. that also received the composition. And he went to a church in the physical world. He went to a church, he was watching a mass, he was a composer. They haven't been composing for some years because he was in a very depressive state. And suddenly in the church, he entered into an ecstatic state, heard a very beautiful music, started to write what he was hearing. And then when he came back, the song was there, composed, and it's his most famous song. It's not a well-known composer in terms that everybody knows, but maybe Fabio knows him. It's an Italian composer. I'm trying to remember his name. God, I read this today.
He wrote with his physical body.
He wrote with his physical body, but he was hearing the music.
Give me more clues. I don't know.
Yeah, again.
You said 18. The
18
review again. Can you just give me?
1858.
Was in the review. Okay. We're gonna look it up.
Jelly, I don't know. I don't remember. Well, and he wrote the music, and it's a beautiful music. And he died 1 year later, discarnated 1 year later. He didn't compose anything else. He was already returning. He was 33 years old. He was already returning to the spiritual world. So I gave you 2 examples of ecstatic trance. I think it makes makes it easier to understand what is an ecstatic trance, right?
Sure. I get the difference between this and somnambulism, but I'm not sure of what exactly differentiates it in ecstatic trance from another trance
because you experience, we're going to read more about it. You experience a sensation of ultimate happiness in a place that it's beyond your normal. If you're in a somnambulic state, you just interact with the spiritual world. But in an ecstatic trance, you go beyond. It's even kind of dangerous, and you are going to see in the next question.
I'm asking, is it a matter of elevation?
Yes.
The contact or the experience is far more elevated than just as an ambulance.
Yes.
Did I understand? Okay.
And the spirit needs to be more evolved. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. Can be still have imperfection, and we're going to see that later. But needs to be a spirit that is in a more elevated state of mind, right? I believe that if you go to these monks or in that meditate, that enter, I believe they enter into ecstatic trance. Yes.
It's more like a meditation. You go higher, higher, and higher.
Yes, but you are in a trance, meaning you are in a state. You are outside your physical body, in a sense, right? Yes.
You connect
to higher levels of spirituality. Yes.
Juan, was it Rossini?
No. Angeli, something like that. There was something similar to that, Italian name, but I don't really remember now. We'll have to look at the article again. Then.
So in a somnambulic state, the person doesn't remember, but in this case, the person does remember. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Those 2 cases that I described, Euripides Barçanufo, he remembered as a dream, and from that day on, he dedicated his life to the poor and to those suffering. So he got something out of it, but he didn't remember the full experience. In the case of the composer, he just saw the music, and he remembered listening to this beautiful music that was there in front of him, but nothing else. As far as I know, as I understood. Okay.
441. When an ecstatic expresses the desire to leave Earth, is he or she speaking sincerely or out of the instinct of self-preservation? That depends on the degree of the spirit's purification. Those who see that their future situation will be better than their present one will make an effort to break the shackles that bind them to Earth.
Again, if you have such a pleasant experience, why would you want to come back here, right? Life is tough here. So, again, this a spirit that knows their responsibilities, like Euripides Barçanufo, you continue working on your mission here, right? He died young. He died in the Spanish flu, the 1920s. Yes, if you remember the book that we were reading before, Between Heaven and Earth, when the mother went to see her son that was in the spiritual world, in the spiritual colony, and André Luiz asked the mentor if she would remember the dream, and the mentor said no, because if she remembers, she wouldn't want to continue living. She would want to go back and stay with her son there in the spiritual world. So she's going to just have a pleasant remembrance that she dreamt with her son, but not the details, because they will be too much for her. So I think it's more or less the same here in ecstatic trance. You cannot fully remember, because otherwise you not want to stay here. And that actually the next question talks a little about this.
442. If people experiencing ecstatic trance were left to their own devices, could their souls definitely leave their bodies? Yes. Such individuals might actually die, and it is therefore necessary to call them back by everything that may attach them to the lower life. Others must show them that if they break the bonds that keep them on earth, they effectively block a later possibility of staying in a world in which they perceive that they would be happy.
Again, the experience is so beyond our, the what they normally experience, that they would probably want to stay there. But if they break the bonds that keep them alive, what they are doing is they're killing their physical body, and it's they end up not being able to go where they wish they went, right? That's what the spirits are telling us here, more or less. So again, if it's in a static trance that they are in a meeting, that they are describing what they are seeing in an ecstatic trance, it's important to bring them back to the physical life. And the story of the composer that I mentioned, right? He was already in the not living a full life here, and after the experience, it just caused him to return to the spiritual world less than 1 year later, apparently. Piangeli, something like that. Oh, I don't remember. Okay.
443. Sometimes people in an ecstatic trance profess to see things that are clearly a figment of their imagination, imprinted with human beliefs and prejudices. Are the things that they see not always real? What they see is real for them, but they may see it in their own way, since they are still attached to matter. Likewise, they may express it in a language adapted.
Yeah, it's formed by the ideas
formed by the ideas with which they were raised. They may cater to prevailing prejudices to make themselves better understood. This is how they are most likely to make an error.
Yes. Here, again, we are imperfect spirits, right? So when I ask you to describe an experience that you are having, you are going to describe the experiences limited by your own knowledge, understanding, and your own interpretation of what you are seeing. So this is going to carry the imperfections you have, right? So a spirit that is in an ecstatic trance, that is describing things that they are seeing, may not be what they are really seeing. Maybe something that they are adding something to their imagination. I remember when André Luiz in the book in the Domain of Mediumship, when they are in a mediumship meeting and there is the mediums describing what they are seeing, that the director asked the mediums to describe what they are seeing, and then one medium say that he's seeing a lake and something else, and the other medium describe a completely different thing, and André Luiz look at the mentor, I'm not seeing anything like what they are describing. They're not seeing anything like this. And the mentor said, they are describing their own imagination, what they imagine they are seeing, right? It's not the reality. That's exactly what they are talking about here. Not everything they are describing may be reality, maybe their own imagination. You are, let's say, you have this experience for the first time in your life. You are in a group. You get so in a state of awe that you start describing things that you are not seeing because you are beyond your your capacity of understand what you are seeing. So that's what they're talking about. And of course, they may be seeing things that we don't have the language to describe. So you are using the language that you have, right? And again, when something that I was came across recent, right? A question that someone asked in one of these Q&A spiritist studies about the description. What is exactly the spirits emanate light? What is this light? And the answer is, it's not light like we understand light. It's not this light. We don't have words to describe. It's the energy that emanates from more evolved spirits. We don't have the word to describe, so we use light because it's the most appropriate word for what we can describe, but it's not exactly light. It's not that you turn on and off. Now, actually, I saw a very interesting description of today of this, talking about light, right? It said every spirit has an inner light, right? But why you cannot see? Because the majority of us, this light is covered with mud. So that's why it's not out there. So as we evolve, we start clearing the mud. So the light was always there. But when you start cleaning the mud, the light starts to show. And when you clean completely, reach perfection, then you are full of light, right? I thought it was an interesting description because what he was trying to explain, it's not that as you evolve, you acquire light. Light was always there. It was just that you didn't know how to express, to externalize the light. I thought it was an interesting comparison.
At some point, they also, I guess, learn to bring that light.
Yes.
Some books about
André
that
Luiz,
too,
yeah.
right?
And then you learn very early, according to André Luiz, right? He already, in the book The Messengers, he already was dimming the light, which, what light did he have in the Messengers? Almost none, right? But if you are a spirit in the level of Nosular, you already have some light that if you go to the lower zones is going to show, right? So you need to learn how to dim that light, yes. Okay.
444. How much confidence should we have for the revelations of ecstatic persons that ecstatic persons make? Persons in an ecstatic trance may very frequently be mistaken, especially when they seek to penetrate what must remain a mystery to humankind. They then give in to their own ideas or become victims of deceptive spirits who take advantage of their enthusiasm to dazzle them with false visions.
Okay. Again, it's a little bit what we discussed, right? You are there experience something that you cannot describe. And sometimes you cannot even attempt to describe because you don't even understand what you are seeing, right? Because it goes beyond our capacity of understanding. And we may try to express our own ideas, and what they're saying that we may be influenced, because when we are trying to bring these ideas, we are always surrounded by spirits, and we may be victim of deceptive spirits who take advantage of the enthusiasm to dazzle them with false visions, right? You have a spirit that is, because you are going to a place, to a higher place, but you're coming back, right? It's going back and forth. And in the middle, there are spirits that are deceptive, so it may happen, okay?
445. What inferences can we draw from the phenomena of somnambulism and ecstatic trance? Can we consider them a sort of initiation to the future life? It would be more correct to say that somnambulists may obtain glimpses of their past and future lives. If human beings study these phenomena, they will find the solution to more than one of the mysteries their unaided reason seeks to uncover in vain.
Again, the experiences of somnambulism and ecstatic trance are experiences in the spiritual world. So how they can describe, they can see their past, and they even can see their future if they continue on the path that they are taking, right? Or if they choose the right path. Again, free will, future. When we talk about the future, we have always to think about free will. Free will can always change the future. And what the spirits are saying, if we study this seriously and without prejudice, without bias, we are going to be able to study the spiritual world. And André Luiz did that for us a lot in the books. He talks about somnambulism and in Evolution in Two Worlds, in Mechanics of Mediumship, which are complex studies, but he talks about it. So it can help, and there is the spiritist scientists are studying this more and more, but regular science still treats it as an anomaly. Until science decides not to treat any longer as an anomaly, they're not going to go much further with it. Okay. Last one.
446. Could the phenomenon of somnambulism and ecstatic trance be consistent with materialism?
Yeah, the was wrong here. Support theoretical materialism is wrong. The original says it's something like be consistent. Okay.
If human beings study them honestly, without the bias of preconceived notions, they cannot seriously entertain the position of the materialist or the atheist.
Yeah. So what they're saying here, if the explanations of the materialists or the atheists for the phenomenon of somnambulism or ecstatic trance, we cannot take them seriously because they are going to be mistaken on their explanation. They will try to explain everything according to the physical body, with the laws of science that we know of, and they won't be able because it goes beyond the physical scientific laws that we have. It has to go to study beyond that. Okay. So, Paco, as I said, next week we are going to go to second site, which is remote viewing also, right? And the first question here, you see that it talks about somnambulism, dreaming, and second sight. They're all the same thing, but we call second sight is also a state in which the spirit is partially free, although the body is not asleep. Second sight is a soul sight. So it's your spirit that is seeing, and it's not you, incarnated being, that is seeing. But we go back next week, just for your curiosity. Okay. Okay. So we're going to stop here. We continue next week with the second sight. Let's stop share. So this Saturday, we have a very interesting lecture, talk, is by Gustavo Silveira, The Parable of the Good Samaritan. Gustavo Silveira is very knowledgeable about the gospel aspect of Spiritism. He's a very good speaker. He speaks a very good English, actually. He already presented a couple of times for us. So I really recommend, and it's part of the youth Spiritist generation that is becoming more well-known in Brazil, together with a couple of others. There is a 15-year-old girl that is becoming well-known in Brazil also. She's a very good speaker. What's her name, Luisa?
I was trying to remember, but she's already 18, by the way.
She's 18?
She's
I thought she was 15. Okay.
she was 15 when Ella
She's going to be in Punta del Este for the World Congress in October, together with a couple of them more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you would remember.
Yeah.
So book club next week, chapter 2 of Light in the Darkness. That's the name of the book, right? By Joana de Angelis and Divaldo Franco. And this Sunday, we are going to study Jesus in the Home, starting on chapter 6. Okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Sure. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Elmo. And thank you, Philip, for reading this evening for us. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Book 2, Chapter 8, regarding somnambulism and ecstatic trance. Somnambulism is an out-of-body experience in the spiritual world, or possibly even to a place in the physical world. A somnambulist is still attached to matter and can be influenced by the body. They may feel impressions of hot and cold, which is actually in the mind. A sleepwalker will not remember their experiences. However, their spirit remembers. An individual in ecstatic trance will reach very refined higher levels of spirituality. They may see things we don't understand completely. Every spirit has an inner light, which evolves through experiences and purification. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center and all spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, they may prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection, as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth now, reminding ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.